Sir. Good evening to all. Today is the 35 part 35 part of the invited talk titled as the Insight In-Depth Talk, conducted by Mark Theophilus Training College, Research Wing, Ignacia. Everyone is welcome to the Treasureful Monday. Respected Principal Dr. K.Y. Bennett Sir, Honorable Chief Guest Somiji, Research Coordinator Joju Sir, teachers, scholars and students. You know, it is the wisdom that enables people to withstand before all troubles. Here today we are all gathered virtually to enrich ourselves, thereby contribute productive impact on the society. So let us begin today's meeting with a prayer. Now I invite Janu MS to welcome each of the dignitaries.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable dignitaries and dear participants. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you to the 35th session of Insight In-Depth Talk series conducted by the Research Wing of Martha Phillips Training College. First of all, I'd like to welcome Dr. K.Y. Benedict, Principal, Martha Phillips Training College. Under his leadership, the Research Wing of Martha Phillips Training College is able to conduct numerous webinars that benefit not just the researchers. On behalf of all the researchers of Martha Phillips Training College, I welcome Dr. K.Y. Benedict sir to this session. Next, I should welcome our resource person, Swami Gurunan Jnanatapasri. He is in charge of Shantigiri Research Foundation and Shantigiri Institute of Training and Development. He His talk will definitely prove a way that help us think without any cognitive bias. On behalf of everyone here, I welcome him to this session. Now, let me welcome Dr. Jojo John, the research coordinator of Martiopolis Training College Research Wing. His constant and unconditional motivation plays a great role in bringing our thoughts and efforts to the next level. On behalf of every research scholar, I welcome Dr. Jojo John sir to the session. Last but not the least, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you, educators, research supervisors, research scholars, student teachers, and all those who have gathered online to make the session a success. Let's enjoy yet another native session. Once again, I welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you, Janu. I invite Deepa S. Introduce the guest of honor for today.
Thank you, Soumya. Is it audible?
Yes, audible.
Good evening, one and all. Respected dignitaries and dear participants, it's my privilege to introduce today's resource person, Swami Gurunand Jnanatabasi, for the 35th Insight in the Talk series organized by the research wing of Martiopolis Training College. Swami Gurunand Jnanatabasi is a member of Ascetic Congregation of Shantigiri Ashram. He holds master's degree in both chemistry and education. He has been a teacher of science for more than 20 years and also served as principal in Shantigiri Vidya Bhavan secondary and senior secondary schools. He is presently heading Shantigiri Research Foundation, the research wing of Shantigiri Ashram, and also the Shantigiri Institute of Training and Development. On a final note, I am proud to say that he is doing PhD in Faculty of Education from the University of Kerala under the guideship of Dr. K.Y. Benedict, Principal Martiopolis Training College Research Center, Nalajara. Now we are so honored to have Swamiji as resource person for today's program. Good luck. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deepa. Before we get started, few announcements and a humble request to all the participants. Kindly mute your microphones. We are proudly announcing that the session will be live on YouTube and the recorded video will be uploaded later on MDTC YouTube platform. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them to the chat box. I will bring them up during the presentation. The host permits also. We will have time for discussion at the end. E-certificate for participation will be issued. So kindly mark your attendance through Google Form. Now I call Swamiji to present their concept. Welcome Swamiji, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, Swamiji. Perfect.
A warm good afternoon to one and all. Our most respectful principal, Dr. K.V. Benedict sir, our beloved George Jones sir, teachers and guides from Martiopolis Training College and other colleges, my dear colleagues, and all those who are assembled here. Let me start my presentation. Is it visible now?
Yes, perfect.
Before starting my presentation, or before entering into the talk, I would like I request your help. I think you can see a picture here on the screen. There are two blocks. Can you please tell what you see in the picture? Can someone please tell what you see, what you could see in the picture?
It
An
looks
open
like a
box.
briefcase.
Okay.
Box kept in the reverse order.
Okay, sir. What about the color of
Just
the?
like a seating area. It's a seating area.
Okay.
Cube in different dimension.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Like a chair,
What
sir.
about the color?
Black and white.
Black and white.
Black and white. Okay.
Yeah.
I think now we can see a different thing. What you can see now?
A triangle.
Yeah, it's a triangle. Any other options?
Three circles with one wedge each.
Okay.
Black and white.
Reminded me of a game back.
Now I would like to do something. You may please hold your index finger in the middle of the figure. I think you can see the screen. If you're touching the screen, it will go to full screen mode. Then you can please hide the center with one of your fingers. Now compare the top and bottom. Is there any color change actually?
Now there is only one color.
No, there is no color.
Yeah, it is actually gray. What we saw was black and white. It was an illusion. The lighting effect actually affected our perception of colors. Likewise, this is actually not a triangle. As Jojo has told, it is actually an arrangement of sliced circles. We construct an imaginary triangle as a way to explain the arrangement of the sliced circles. This is called Kanizsa triangle. So actually there is no triangle. We are inventing a triangle from the particular arrangement of circles. Now, can someone read this?
According to
research study at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and the last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it, wouldn't problem. This is because the human mind does not read everything later by itself, but the word as a whole.
Definitely, I think it is a magic.
It's a scrambled words spelling that you have used.
Spelling mistakes are there for me.
Definitely. That's why we are bypassing spelling errors. While we are writing examination or notes, we are not aware of the spelling. We simply write the letters. And while proofreading also, many of the people just don't see the spelling errors. They simply see the words and they get the meaning. And why this happens, it is actually a particular property of our brain that we will discuss. So there are many fallacies in the way we think and how we decide things. And they are called cognitive biases. So cognitive biases, I think we are much familiar with these particular words. To err is human. So why we are erring always? That is because of these cognitive biases. We are trying to explain what is cognitive bias and which are the different types of cognitive biases, and if possible, how to avoid that. Because I don't think that we get that much time. So the human brain is very powerful, but also comes with its own limitations. It is the capacity of human brain is much more than any computer that is invented. But it has its own limitations. So researchers researchers theorize that people are bombarded with 11 million pieces of information at a time, but we can consciously process only 40. We have the autonomous nervous system that is collecting information from each and every organ and tissue of our body, and our sense organs are collecting information from the external world. So more than 11 million pieces of information is reaching our head each and every moment, but we are unable to process that much. We can consciously process only 40. And we know that in the working memory, we can hold only up to 7 plus or minus 2 information at a time. In order to simplify information processing, our brain takes shortcuts. This may sometimes lead to perceptual distortion or inaccurate judgments or illogical interpretations, or what is broadly called cognitive biases. These cognitive biases can affect our decision making, our judgment, our memory, and our motivation to do things. These unconscious biases happen automatically and are triggered by our brain, making quick judgments and opinions of people and or situations. So we will be judging than thinking about people and situations. They occur when our preferences towards or against something impacts our actions. These behaviors happen most frequently under pressure, while we are multitasking or simply being in a hurry. Also, humans almost unknowingly twist the reality in a way that goes along with their own beliefs. As a result, people's behavior becomes dictated by their own construction of reality instead of the facts. We are much familiar with many of us are teachers, we are familiar with the fact that whenever we are teaching in a particular class, that class will be perceived by the 50 students in 50 different ways, because the difference in the way they construct their reality. The cognitive biases are psychological tendencies that cause the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions. This concept, this notion of cognitive biases was introduced by Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in 1972. And this particular book, Thinking Fast and Slow, it is a very international bestseller by Daniel Kahneman that explains different types of cognitive biases and the reasons for that. And he is a winner of Nobel Prize in economics. And this particular cognitive biases is largely employed in economic field also. It is referred to as neuroeconomics. So according to him, in our brain, there are two systems or two brain network structures. That is system 1 and system 2. In his time, it was named as system 1 and system 2. Nowadays, it is named as default mode network. The system 1 is called default mode network, and system 2 is called attention mode or task positive network. Task negative network and task positive network. Default mode network and attention mode network. These are the names given now. So this is system 1. It is the seat of unconscious reasoning. It makes judgments based on intuition. Then it processes information very quickly. It is a seat of hypothetical reasoning. It has very large capacity. It is prominent in both animals and humans. It is unrelated to working memory. It operates effortlessly and automatically. It is a seat of unintentional thinking. It is influenced by experiences, our emotions, and our memories. It can, but the very important thing is that it can be overridden by the system 2. It is prominent since human origin. It includes recognition, perception, orientation, etc. While the system 2, it is a seat of conscious reasoning. Judgments based on critical examination. We critically evaluate using this system 2. It processes information very slowly because it needs more energy to function. So the brain naturally takes the low energy path, and we will be always in the default mode or in the system 1. If only we are critically thinking, system 2 will be switched on. It is a seat of logical reasoning, but the capacity is so small. It is prominent only in humans. It is related to our working memory. As we already told, working memory can hold only up to 7 plus or minus 2 informations at a particular time. It operates with effort and control. It is a seat of intentional thinking. It is influenced by facts, logic, and evidence. It is used when system 1 fails to form a logical or acceptable conclusion. Normally, the system 1 will be functioning, and if it fails, the system 2 will take over. It is developed over time because as we evolved from the hunter-gatherer style of living, this particular capacity is gradually increasing and improving. We are still in the developmental stage of this system 2. It includes rule following, comparisons, weighing of options, etc. So there are two systems in our brain, the system 1 and system 2. We will make it a bit more familiar. So you can now see a cricket match on the screen. The fielder is taking the catch, and here now the system 1 is performing. The system 1 predicts the trajectory of the ball and adjusts our limb motions accordingly. That is why the fielder is able to catch the ball even the split second of the time. Now you can see another cricket field event, but now the fielder is missing the ball. It's because the system 1 fails. When the system 1 fails, system 2 would get engaged. System 2 would become engaged when system 1 fails. So this system 1 is prone to error. We have to keep that in mind. So cognitive biases occur when system 1 generates a faulty intuition and system 2 fails to correct it. The system 1 generates a faulty intuition. That is the while the second player is going to catch the ball, the system 1 generates the faulty intuition, and the system 2 fails to correct it, either because system 2 fails to go into action. System 2 was not able to function, or because system 2 goes into action but fails to properly inhibit or supervise the system 1. Anyway, the system 2 is failing also. Both the system 1 and system 2 is failing there. The system 2 fails to engage in proper and analytical reasoning. So the fallacy of the system 1 and system 2 produces these cognitive biases. So that is regarding the thinking process. In the emotional process, the affective process also, there are two roads. Similar, there are two systems. It's called the low road and the high road. We can quickly react, and that's possible because of our amygdala. Whatever sensory information that is reaching the thalamus, it will be directly given to amygdala and we will be quickly responding. And it is called the low road. And it will take only 12 milliseconds to respond. But there is a high road. That is, the sensory information will be given to sensory cortex. A part of it will be given to the hippocampus to compare with the memories. And then the information will be coming back to the same amygdala. But it will take more time, about 30 to 40 milliseconds it will take. So it is called the high road. So we will be always following the low road, or the system 1 in the case of thinking, and the low road in the case of emotions. So our brain has two ways of processing information, in both the thinking and in the emotion. So that is why Carl Jung said, thinking is hard. That's why people judge. So thinking, it is the effort of the system 2. It is a high energy road, so normally it won't function. But the people will be quick in their judgment because of their system 1. That's the meaning of the words of Carl Jung. So cognitive biases, it happens because of 4 reasons. The first one is information overload. As we have told, 11 million pieces of information will be reaching our head. How could it process all these things? So it will be deleting some facts. some information. And so we sometimes you will be deleting the key facts. So that is the problem with this information overload. Sometimes it lack of meaning will be there. Sometimes the information will be less, and we will be inventing certain facts. See, that happened in the case of the triangle, Cancer triangle. There actually the information was not complete, but we invented the triangle in between the circles. So that is we are lacking meaning. So we try to invent key facts. Then need to act fast. We have to quickly respond. So we bypass some key facts. Then what we have to remember? For the easiness of remembering, we change the facts and even create false memories. Many of the memories in our head, it may not be the right one. So it's also a cognitive bias. So the cognitive bias comes under these 4 categories. Information, it happens because of these 4 things: the information overload, the lacking of meaning of information, our urgency to need, our urgency to act fast, and the way in which we remember things. So these are the 4 areas in which cognitive biases can play. The problem with this cognitive bias is that whether conscious, unconscious bias is obvious or subtle, it can create a ripple effect because one thing will trigger another thing. So it will be adding up. Small decisions which are influenced by unconscious biases can have a big impact because one will trigger another and it will trigger another and it will have a rippling effect, and our entire life will be in a biased state. So we have to take care of these cognitive biases in our life. So we all have it. Why it is so? It is an evolutionary bliss, actually. We evolved that way because unconscious biases are necessary to us. Organizing information into categories is a hardwired mental shortcut which allowed our ancestors to quickly differentiate between the friends and foes. If the hunter-gatherer was not able to identify his friend or foe, it will cost his life. So this particular shortcutting or autopiloting mechanism is built in, or it evolved in the head of each and every person, and it is a genetic factor. So we have to take conscious measures to avoid these cognitive biases. See, there are actually more than 175 cognitive biases that are affecting our own thinking and our decisions. More than 175 cognitive biases. Definitely, I'm not able to discuss all the things in this class. It is actually for your information. Such things are there with us. We have to know about the thing. You can search the net and get more information regarding this. Have a good reading of this and be aware of the different types of cognitive biases. Have an introspection to develop your self-awareness regarding this cognitive biases. So we will try to discuss each category. The first one is the information overload. Here we delete key facts. We don't see everything. Some of the information we filter out is actually useful and important. See, actually, whenever we are taking food, we just don't count how many times we are taking food to our mouth because it happens automatically. It is not a conscious process. But George, sir, let me ask one thing, sir.
Please.
So in our college, the main stairs are there to reach to the second floor.
Yeah.
So you might have walked through that step more than 5,000 times.
Yeah.
So can you please number the right? Can you give the right number of steps?
From the ground floor to the first floor.
Yes, sir.
I can only guess it. I haven't counted it like that.
So you have walked through the steps more than 5,000 or 10,000 times over these years, but we are not.
Swamiji, though I have walked the steps only maybe twice or thrice, I have not twice or thrice. I have walked this road maybe more than 10 times. I have counted it, but since it was years back, I have forgotten it. Otherwise, I have the habit of counting the steps when I climb, and I do remember it also.
Okay, okay.
24.
Sir?
24.
24. Hats off to you, sir. Because normally people won't do things like this. We are always unconsciously doing things because our system 1 is functioning while the system 2 is always in the sleeping state. So we don't see things. Some of the information we filter out is actually useful and important. In this particular case, it is not that much, but in many other cases in our life, things are different. So this particular type of cognitive bias, it comes in 5 categories. We notice things that are already primed in memory or repeated often. That particular word priming, see, it is actually the key for advertisements. Whatever we are always seeing, we will be giving importance to that particular thing. Our brains tend to boost the importance of things that are unusual or surprising. Then we are drawn to details that confirm our own existing beliefs and ignore details that contradicts our own beliefs. So beliefs play a great role in our decision making. We notice when something has changed. So we will be missing the routine things. We notice flaws in others more easily than flaws in ourselves. I'll be giving one example each from each category. The first one is availability heuristics. It is a tendency of people to rely on information that comes to mind quickly and easily. It illustrates how isolated memorable moments have a disproportionate influence on decisions we make. We consider that if something can be recalled, it must be important or at least more important than alternative solutions which are not as readily recalled. Hence, people tend to heavily weigh their judgments towards more recent information, making new opinions biased towards the last news. So we will be forgetting the past events and we will be making judgments or decisions based on the recent events only. Also, many things are happening in the world, even regarding this COVID pandemic. Many things are happening in the world. And our media is giving us a few information regarding that. But we feel that we know much about this particular concept because of this availability heuristics. Whatever we know, we feel that we are sufficient in that. But what is the problem? See, we know that there are 7 colors in white light. When these 7 colors are combined together, it will give the white color. If one particular color is lost from the colors, we will get a complementary color, not the original white light. Likewise, whenever we are living, whenever we are not considering all the information regarding a particular thing, our judgments or our decisions may be error. It will be erring. So we must try our best to collect all the possible information regarding a particular thing before going into a decision, not the recent ones or not the immediately available one. We have to test for all the possible things in connection with that. So that is availability heuristics. Then the anchoring bias, it comes in the second category. It is a tendency of being overly influenced by the first piece of information obtained. See, we normally tell that first impression is the best impression, and it is actually the anchoring bias. Instead of being objective, we tend to base our reasoning on first information and set inaccurate reference points. It is also heavily used in advertising or in marketing. See, whenever a mug is having a cost of 300 rupees and you are seeing another one, then you will feel that it is costing very much. But if the rate is printed as 1000 and a discount is given as 300, then definitely you feel that it is like free money, or I am getting it in a reasonable price. So you're anchored to the information 1000 that is having a higher cost. Now it is called a decoy price. See, two bottles, I think you can see in the picture, one is 10 rupees and the another is 30. Then you feel that the 30, the one that is having the higher price is more expensive. But if you see another one of the same category at a higher price at 50, then you feel that the one that is of 30 is reasonable. So when separated, we cannot identify the real value of things. So we will be primed to think in a particular way regarding the according to our first information. So that is anchoring bias. Next one is the confirmation bias. It is a tendency to pay more attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs. Through this bias, people tend to favor information that reinforces the things they already think or believe, avoiding contrary evidences. So we go after our beliefs and we hide away from the other options. Focusing on existing options make it easier as it helps reduce the amount of resources we need to make a decision. Furthermore, it boosts our self-esteem as it makes people feel like their own beliefs are accurate. So this is confirmation bias. The facts and evidences are many, but we will take up only that conforms with our existing beliefs and we will be leaving the other behind. We will be sticking on to our beliefs and argue with people according to our confirmation biases. The next is ostrich effect. This bias causes people to avoid information they perceive as potentially unpleasant. Instead of dealing with a situation, some people prefer to ignore it. It is always called a bottling. Like ostriches, thinking it will go away. You will be ignoring it, but it will be still there. This often makes things worse as they cost much more than if we have faced the situation in the first place. We will be ignoring the thing. See, this particular bias is the base of procrastination. We feel that, see, whenever we are learning a chapter, many portions will be very difficult. We will be avoiding the difficult portion and we'll be going after the easy ones. And this is because of this ostrich effect. We ignore destructive patterns. Then it makes us too emotionally invested. And it is a reason for our procrastination tendencies. Then choice supportive bias. Tendency to remember our choices as better than they actually were. As we tend to over-focus on the benefits of options we choose and the downside of the options we didn't choose. So we will be always confirming that our decision is a good one. This helps us feel better about the decisions we made. So we will be constantly repeating in our head, I am right, I know that I am right. Likewise, we will be confirming our choices. So it is called choice supportive biases. And also at the same time, the one we avoided, we also always try to point out the downside of that avoided thing also. So that is called choice supportive bias. Then the bias blind spot. It is not easy for us to accept about our biases. It is like a blind spot. See, we know that while looking through the mirrors, while driving a car, we are not able to see, on both sides, we are not able to see some portions. That is called the blind spot. Likewise, most people have no idea of how biased they actually are. But they feel that most people around them are more biased than they themselves are. So if we are not able to identify our bias, then it is called bias blind spot. So these are the different types of biases coming under information overload. Then the lack of meaning. We may not be able to construct the real meaning of things because of the lack of information. So we invent key facts. Our search for meaning can summon illusions. We sometimes imagine details that were filled in by our assumptions. So we are only assuming, or we are having an opinion and we are deciding on that and construct meaning and stories that aren't really there. So there are 6 types of cognitive biases that arise due to this invention of stories. We tend to find stories and patterns even when looking at the insufficient data. We fill in characteristics from stereotypes, generalities, and prior histories. We imagine things and people we are familiar with or fond of as better. We simplify probabilities and numbers to make them easier to think about. We think we know what other people are thinking. It is called a theory of mind. We project our current mindset and assumptions onto the past and the future. So these are the 6 different types of cognitive biases that arises when we invent stories or patterns from data that we are receiving when the data is insufficient. In the picture, I think you could see a human face. But actually it has no correlation with a human face. So it is called illusory correlation bias. It is a tendency to inaccurately link an action to an effect, seeing an association between 2 variables, events, action, ideas, etc., when there is in fact no correlation. We notice that certain events constantly happen at the same time or after others, leading us to conclude they are related, while this isn't naturally true. That is necessarily true. See, a boy, he is attacked by a dog once, and whenever he sees a dog, even though it is friendly, he will be frightened. That is also an illusionary correlation, correlating the 2 categories of dogs. Then, when we used a particular dress on a particular day of examination and we scored higher marks, then probably in the next examination also, whenever another examination is coming, we will be using the same dress, so that we will be correlating the 2. Actually, there is no correlation. And this particular thing is very prominent in the field of cricket and in the field of movies. I think you can see the picture of Sachin Tendulkar holding the bat. This is his lucky bat. He has been using this bat. Now he is not using it. In the initial stages of his career, he used this particular bat to score his centuries. This is his lucky bat. Even though it is worn out, he was not ready to leave that. He will be keeping it. He has been keeping it and considered it as his lucky bat. Likewise, when the India-Pakistan match is going on, some people, they won't rise from their seat till the entire match is over. They believe that if they rise from the seat, the wicket will be falling. So that is all these things, and all these things come under illusionary correlation bias. Next is the bandwagon effect. It is a tendency of an individual to acquire a particular style, behavior, or attitude because every other person is doing it. As more people come to believe in something, others also hop on the bandwagon, regardless of the underlying evidences. It creates herd mentality or group thinking in us. We have a tendency to fit in to the group. We want to be in the winning side, or we follow trends. And this bandwagon effect is the reason behind following the fashion trends. So we will just do it. Everyone else is doing. Then why you are keeping away? That will be the thought process happening inside us. In Malayalam, there is a telling that Munbe Gamikinna Govadande Pinbe Gamikinna Bahu Gokalala. That is the bandwagon effect. I don't know where we are going, but from the look of this crowd, it's gotta be good. So everyone is doing, let me also do, it may be good. But we are not analyzing the real facts regarding the concept. That is the bandwagon effect. Next is the halo effect. When our post our feelings in another area, even though they aren't related, they are not related. It describes the tendency of people to be influenced by the previous judgments of performance and personality. It also relates to the belief that what is beautiful is also good. Assuming a good-looking person is also a good person overall. People, this forms the base of personality. Whenever we see a well-dressed person, we feel that he's a smart person. People who are naturally sociable or kind are often seen as more likable or smart. So attractive people are perceived to be smarter, funnier, and more likable than less attractive people. We are not actually analyzing the qualities of that person, and we normally judge them according to their looks, and that is called halo effect. In this figure, you could see two girls or two ladies. From the appearance of the first lady, we could judge that she's intelligent because of the body language. We could judge that she's intelligent, industrious, impulsive. While the second one could be envious, and the body language is according to that. Envious, stubborn, critical. But whenever you are reading down, you could see that both the qualities are the same, but they are simply reversed. But we feel that the first informations fit into the appearance of that lady. So that is called halo effect. In many times, we are actually having this effect while judging people. Sometimes teachers are having this halo effect to a greater degree while judging the students. Now, the next is normalcy bias. It is the most prevalent bias in nowadays in the COVID pandemic time. See, normalcy bias or normality bias is a cognitive bias which leads people to disbelieve or minimize things, threat warnings. Now we have threat warnings. We know that this much problem this COVID is creating, but still we will be wearing our mask on our chin. Consequently, individuals underestimate the likelihood of a disaster when it might affect them and its potential adverse effects. Even in this pandemic situation, many people feel that they won't get corona. This makes them, this is the normalcy bias in them, and that makes them do things beyond control of the government. Nowadays, the Supreme Court has to decide on what to do and what not to do, and how to overcome this normalcy bias. The next is the spotlight effect. We tend to think people notice us more than they do. See, that is why we are over-conscious on our dressing and our appearances. So that is the spotlight effect. We are actually conscious of our details of dressing and our appearances, and we feel that other people are also observing that, but actually they have other jobs. They are actually not judging us, but we feel that they judge us in that particular way. And this cognitive bias is called the spotlight effect. The next one is the outcome bias. It is a tendency to judge a past decision by its result, rather than analyzing factors that led to the decision. So we will be focusing only on the outcome, and we are ignoring the process, the effort that resulted in the process. One mistakenly takes into account only the ultimate outcome without looking at what information was available at the time when the decision was being made, and what factors or events led to that outcome. So we have to give more equal importance to the process and the output. But many times we will be focusing only on the output or the outcome. It prevents us from learning the right lessons from previous experiences and make us blind to the real risks of certain action. It is especially true in a situation where a poor decision yielded a positive result. The outcome bias easily makes us believe that any decision process leading to a desirable outcome must have been good, and should naturally be repeated in the future. I will explain it more. See here, the process and the outcome is contrasted in a matrix. So the process is good and the process is bad. The outcome could be good or outcome could be bad. If a good process is giving us a good outcome, then we deserve success. That is a normal result of that. But when the process is bad and the outcome is good, it is mere luck. But we feel that whatever process we have done, it will yield the good outcome in future also. So we may not be learning anything from that. So we have to be cautious about both the process, the effort we have taken, also into account. The process is bad and the outcome is also outcome. The process is bad and the outcome is bad. Then it is poetic justice that it will be a failure. But the process is good and the outcome is bad. The process was extremely good, but the outcome was bad. We could see that in a football match, both the teams will be playing. Both the teams will be playing in the very good manner, but the loser, they also have done their work in the right manner. But because of bad luck or many other reasons, they might have lost something. But we will be judging that they didn't play in the right way. So we have to give importance to both process and the outcome. So that is this is especially true in a situation when a poor decision yields a positive result. The outcome bias easily makes us believe that any decision process leading to a desirable outcome must have been good and should naturally be repeated in the future. That's the problem regarding this outcome bias. The next is the need to act fast. We have to make quick decisions. So we will be bypassing some key facts. Quick decisions can be seriously flawed. Some of the quick reactions and decisions we jump to are unfair, self-serving, and counterproductive. So this particular biases come in 5 categories. We favor simple-looking options and complete information over complex and ambiguous options. To avoid mistakes, we aim to preserve autonomy and group status and avoid irreversible decisions. Then, to get things done, we tend to complete things we have invested time and energy in, and we overlook other options. To stay focused, we favor the immediate, relatable thing in front of us, and we will be ditching delayed gratification. To act, we must be confident that we can make an impact and feel what we do is important. So these 5 things also create cognitive biases in us. Let's discuss. The first one is less is better effect. This also comes in the marketing field. The less is better effect is a type of preference reversal that occurs when the lesser or smaller alternative of a proportion is preferred when evaluated separately, but not evaluated together. We'll discuss the thing. Evaluations of objects are often influenced by attributes that are easy to evaluate rather than by those that are important. Now look at the first figure. The first cup, it is a bigger cup, but it is not full. It contains 70 grams of ice cream. In the second cup, it is a small cup. It contains only 50 grams of ice cream, but it is full. Normally, people will be choosing the second cup. In many experiments, many psychological experiments have been done in this regard. And the decision was this particular thing is confirmed through research also. See, whenever the shop, we are familiar with a particular I just can't remember the name of that shop. പുറത്തുനിന്ന് അകത്തേക്ക് നോക്കിയാൽ അതിവിശാലമായ ഷോറൂം. There was a
Kottayam
Kottayam
Ayyappa.
Ayyappas.
Kottayam Ayyappas. Because the front of the shop is very small, so they have to tell the people that much things are there inside. Whenever this is normally used by shopkeepers, they will exhibit all the things in the front of the shop so that it seems full. So whenever a person is looking at the shop, he feels that many things are there in this shop. So they will be normally going to such a shop and buying things. Even though much more things are there in a shop that is not displaying these things, people may not go there. That shopkeeper will be utilizing this less is better effect. So even though it is small, make it full. Then people will go after that. Even though it is good and more, if you are serving in a small bowl, in a larger bowl, which is not full, then people may not be satisfied.
Ramachandran Textiles Trivandrum.
Sir. So these particular things are having much impact in our lives, sir. In the second figure, it is a different aspect of this less is better effect. This second, the person who won the second place, he will be always in a dismay. But the third will be happy. The second person thinks that I just missed the first place, but the third will be more happy. So the lesser the place, higher will be the satisfaction. Likewise, because the person who got the second place, he always thinks that I just missed it. I just missed it. But such a thought may not be affecting the person who got the third prize. So that is the less is better effect. The next is status quo bias, avoiding action and avoiding change. We will be always keeping our comfort zones. We are not ready to change our attitudes, behavior, and our concept or our worldviews. We are biased to keep things the way they are, even if we didn't originally choose it. We are biased to avoid risks generated by changes, even when the risks are less than from the making not change. See, whenever you are making a change, actually there may not be any risk, but you are fearful about making that change. So that is called status quo bias. Then another one is zero risk bias. I think you can see the picture. I think it is self-explanatory. Tendency to prefer the complete elimination of a risk, even when alternative options produce a greater overall reduction in risk. That is called, we are not ready to take a risk. That is why we cannot be productive or creative in our life. So that is the zero risk bias. Many people are having this zero risk bias in a very great amount in their mind. So they may not take up any changes or any risks in their lives, and they will move through the comfort zones of the life. The next one is the hyperbolic discounting. Hyperbolic discounting. It is actually connected with a graph. That is why this opposite to that is exponential. So this hyperbolic discounting, it is actually giving, when given two similar rewards, humans show a preference for one that arrives sooner rather than the later one. So immediate gratification. See, a question is asked to Lakshmi, do you want 100 rupees today or 120 a week after? Definitely she will be telling that I need it, I will take the 100 today. But she will be getting 120 after a week. She may not go after that. So it is called immediate gratification. We always go after immediate gratification. And the opposite is delayed gratification. So if you are ready to wait, much more good things will be coming to your life. But we are not ready to wait for things to come. So that is the difference between immediate gratification and the delayed gratification. And the overweight of immediate gratification, that is called hyperbolic discounting. Next is the Dunning-Kruger effect. See, the unskilled and the unaware will be more confident than the expert. And this effect is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Unskilled and unaware of it how difficulties in recognizing one's own incompetency leads to inflated self-assessments. So if some person is unskilled and unaware of it, he feels more confident in doing things than an expert. But a person who is gaining experience may not be that much confident in doing things. That is called.
Dr. Haleshappa, please mute. Hello, Dr. Haleshappa, please mute. Dr. Hansi, can you mute Dr. Haleshappa, please? Swamiji, please carry on.
Sir. This is the last part. That is, we want to remember something. So we change the facts according to our wish and will. Our memory reinforces errors. Some of the stuff we remember for later just makes us more biased and more damaging to our thought processes. It comes in 4 categories. We store memories differently based on how they are experienced. We reduce events and list to their key elements. Not all the details, but we will be seeing only the key elements. We discard specifics to form generalities. We will be generalizing things and we may not be seeing the specific things so that we could easily remember. We edit and reinforce some memories after the fact, leading us to create memories in our mind and is called false memories. And the first one is absent-mindedness. Absent-mindedness is when a person shows inattentive or forgetful behavior. It is caused because of 3 reasons. A low level of attention. You are not giving your attention in the proper way. Then intense attention to a single object of focus. It is called a hyperfocus that makes a person oblivious to events around him or her. When you see, this happens when some students are daydreaming in the class. Their intensive attention is there in their thoughts, and they will be oblivious about, they are forgetful about the entire class, and they simply sit and daydream. Unwanted distraction of attention from the object of focus by irrelevant thoughts or environmental effects. Because of this particular thing, we end into accidents. Even when we are driving, our thoughts will be going off and we may not see a vehicle that is coming opposite to us. And we will hit the vehicle and we will see the vehicle only in the last moment of impact. So this is absent-mindedness. It is actually a cognitive bias. Then that is the next one is the negativity bias. Actually, it is a blessing. We will say why it is. Even when of equal intensity, things of a more negative nature, that is unpleasant thoughts, emotions, social interactions, harmful or traumatic events, etc., have a greater effect on one's psychological state and processes than neutral or positive things. Simply, that's the definition given to negative bias. We will be giving more importance to negative events than positive events. Very positive will generally have less of an impact on a person's behavior and cognition than something equally emotional but negative. Positive will have less effect and negative will have more effect. This is called negativity bias because it is an evolutionary process. if you lack of this will lead to the risking of our life. See, getting a food, that is a positive thing for the hunter gatherer, but unable to see a tiger or a lion, that is a negative, that will create more impact on the person's life than getting the positive thing, that is a food. So normally in an evolutionary process, our head become accustomed more towards the negative things than to the positive things. So whenever much people are appreciating us, we won't be hearing those appreciations. But even if one person is telling anything negative about us, we will be keeping that in our mind and brooding over that particular statement. So we will be ignoring the positive things and we will be dwelling more on the negative things. See, in this COVID pandemic, I have called more than 100 people, those who are having this problem, because whenever they are going through this COVID, when they are affected with COVID, and they will be shutting down themselves in a room, and every other person is not interacting with them, they feel this negativity bias at its most. So we have to be very cautious about this negativity bias. The next is the suggestibility, being inclined to accept and act on suggestions of others. We are not taking our own decision, but we are taking decisions according to the opinion of others. That is called suggestibility. One may fill in gaps in certain memories with false information given by another when recalling a scenario or moment. It is well used by police officers while interrogating. So they will be fitting words to our mouth and making the evidences. I think the picture itself is self-explanatory. You are sure it was the guy with no number who committed the mistake. So if the policeman is telling like that, definitely we'll be nodding the head and telling yes to that. That is called suggestibility. Next is the recency or serial possession effect. Recent events are easier to remember and are often weighed more heavily than past events or potential future events. The recency effect is a component of a serial possession effect, which describes how our memory is affected by the possession of information in a sequence or a list. I will definitely, whenever I am showing the picture, you will be knowing it in a more detail. It implies that we best remember the first and last items in a series and find it hard to remember the middle items. So we have been discussing about 20 different cognitive biases. I am sure that you could definitely remember the first two pictures and the third slide that showed the letters, the scrambled letters. But many things that have been discussed in the middle, it is not in your mind. Definitely it might have gone. That is the recency or recency effect or the serial possession effect. We could remember only the starting and the ending. So it has much implication in our teaching. If the class is having the 40 minutes class, it must be divided. It must be given at least 2 breaks so that the students could remember more that the teacher is teaching them. We have to change the style. After at least after 20 minutes, you have to change the style, or you have to crack a joke or make a difference so that they feel a break in between, and then whenever they are going afresh into the next session, they could remember more. So even though this is a bias, we can make use of it. That is the recency or the serial possession effect. So don't believe everything you think. It may be errors. Be teachable. You are not always right. We have to be teachable. That means we have to learn new things in our life and keep the life as an entire process of learning. The more we become aware of biases, the closer we get to reality. So how to get rid of this biasing? It is called debiasing or reducing cognitive biases. Debiasing process involves the following stages. Awareness, becoming aware that a certain bias might be triggered or has been triggered already. Then decision, you have to take decision to take action to reduce the bias. The third one is analysis, figure out when, where, why, and how the bias is in question is likely to occur. Where you have to spot out, figure out when, where, and why, and how the bias is going to catch us. Then planning. Based on the information from the analysis stage, identify the optimal debiasing approach to use and figure out how exactly it will be implemented. I'm just telling that we have to consider each and every bias separate and have to plan the debiasing technique according to that. But I think it is beyond the scope of this particular talk. Then fifth one is action, implement the planned debiasing approach. So these are the general steps of debiasing. Definitely the fourth stage, that is planning the debiasing process. It is the key thing in that. First of all, we have to be aware that we are prone to bias. We have to take decision to get rid of this bias, and we have to analyze which way we are biased, and we have to plan to overcome this biasing. We have to apply the particular debiasing techniques for that. Then we have to plan for that, and we have to go into action to implement the debiasing process. So we have to be aware of triggers in ourselves and others. Remember that we are likely to favor people who are like us. Do not make assumptions about individuals. Don't jump into judgments. Be aware of our body language as well as our verbal language, because it will be influencing people. Think about halo effect, bandwagon effect, etc. Base decisions on facts and information rather than gut instinct. Many times we are following the gut instinct, not the facts, or we are following the system 1, not the system 2. So to switch on the system 2, what we have to do? Here are some questions to ask yourself that can help increase understanding. What am I thinking? Why I am thinking so? Is there a past experience that is impacting my current decision? Then is the past experience applicable now, or is it biased on a preference or bias? Is the past experience applicable now, or is it biased on a preference or a bias itself? So we have to think in this way. So we have to trigger, consciously trigger the system 2. Otherwise, we will be always in the system 1 mode. That is why people are telling, the enlightenment or awakening, because it is done by people who are able to switch on their system 2 forever, and they may not be going to the default mode or the system 1 mode. That is why it is called enlightening or awakening, or using words like that. That's all about cognitive biases, and thank you all for a patient hearing of the program. Thank you very much.
Congrats, Swamiji, for that exceptional presentation. It was simply unique, and it would add to the research acumen of all the research fellows. That's what I feel. Thank you and congrats to you. Now, dear friends, any queries?
Swamiji, this is Rakesh from Matthew Plus Training College.
Please.
It was a very good session, Swamiji, and I was actually enlightened with your presentation. And now, I have a query with regard to this particular biases. Don't you think that over a period of time, as we evolved, these biases came into existence for our survival?
Yeah, definitely. We became, see, that's why I showed the 4 things. We
Okay.
are loaded with information and we have to get rid of many information. But which one we are filtering, it is very important. For that, you have to be very cautious in making decisions.
Okay. That's why you talked about debiasing and
Yeah.
then
We have to debias or bias mitigation. That is another word used for that. We have to look into that's
that
the
is Swamiji, we are talking about being more mindful of things.
yeah,
that
definitely.
are-
I was about to use that word. We have to be mindful. But we are always telling about mindfulness. But before telling mindfulness, we have to tell about these biases. In which way, which are the different possible ways we could be biased. More than 180 types of biases are there.
180. Oh my God.
180. I just mentioned one from each category. In 180 different ways, we could be biased. So we have to invoke our self-awareness and we have to be mindful about that.
Thank you, Swamiji. It was a very informative session.
Thank you very much.
Swamiji, thank you for your this very nice presentation. I'm very much enlightened because of your this thing. Means your presentations. I have a little doubt, Swamiji, regarding the subject.
Please, sir.
The bias you discussed throughout this presentation. Okay, is it something to do because you touched the unconscious mind and the conscious also the things which is the subconscious mind?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is it something to do with that?
Yeah, definitely, sir. The system 2, it is
Yeah.
actually our consciousness.
Okay.
And the system 1, it is our unconscious.
Okay.
Many of the decisions are from the unconscious mind for normal person.
Okay.
So definitely we have to be mindful about our decisions. We have to look for all the options. So
Okay.
we will be telling that 5 plus 2 gives 7. We are comfortable with that. At the same time, we could realize that 10 minus 3 also gives 7.
Okay.
14 divided by 2 also gives 7.
Okay.
Square root of 49 also gives 7. There are many ways, but we will be having a pipeline vision to see only one thing.
Okay. Okay.
That is why people commit suicide in their life.
Okay. Okay.
They will be blocked in their views. So no option to move forward. But actually, plan from A to Z is still there. Or AB is still there. But they are not looking for options. It is actually because of our biases.
Okay. 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 Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Congratulations, Swami Gurunand, for your excellent, very thickly packed presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Whether out of my curiosity, I'm asking whether this is only with respect to the human being behavior or some this kind of biases may be there in the lower kingdom of animals. For example, in hunting and other things, by the prey catching process, is it? Do you have any information regarding the lower kingdom?
Definitely, sir. It is there. Whenever, if you are seeing cat videos, I have a habit of seeing cat videos because it is very soothing. Whenever we are having any tension, I have a habit of seeing cat videos. That means the playfulness of cats. See, whenever they are jumping, all the cats may not reach the point because they have judgmental error. They are not aware of their weight. They simply just can't calculate the distance they have to jump and the effort they have to make, and they simply will fall. So this error is bias is there in other living beings also, because the system 1 is active in all other beings and human beings, but the system 2 is active only in human beings. That is why we are called human beings, because we are able to think. They are simply judging but not rationally thinking. They are not logical, but we could be logical, but we are always ignoring the logic nature or the critical thinking facts. I think that makes us different. The ability to think and the ability to smile, that makes us different.
Another doubt rising is that the malfunctions of the endocrine system of a human being may be slightly influencing this kind of biases.
Definitely, sir. Not slightly, to a great extent, because our moods are actually created by the secretions of our endocrine glands. So that will be affecting the way we see things, and it will be affecting our decisions also. That is why it is normally told that don't give promises when you are happy. The entire Ramayana happened because of this error. When Dasharatha was much happy, he was ready to give boon to his wife. But she was emotionally intelligent. She didn't take the boon at that particular time, but she took it later and sent Rama to forest. So whenever you are taking a decision when you are extremely happy, it may be erroneous. Whenever you are angry, then you are taking a decision. Definitely, that will be cursing you in your later life.
By attending this session, I may have a thought like that in the primary level of the earliest developmental stage of a human being, there must be a kind of a thorough medical neuroscience checkup also must be there, so that the future, some of the possible errors could be initially reduced and rectified.
At least we could teach them that this type of errors can be there in your life. You have to be cautious about that.
What I meant is that some kind of, in addition to the effort taken by the teacher community, there must be a certain kind of organized system in our society by which medical, neuroscience and the education people combine together and work for a better society.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
Shall we move towards the closing part? Hello?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Please.
Dear participants, here welcome to the conclusion of Google platform. I call Malini to express the words of gratitude.
Respected Principal in Matthew-Phillips Training College, Dr. K. Benedict sir, Dr. Jojo sir, all teachers, research scholars, and dear friends. Good evening to one and all gathered here. About myself, I am Malini, research scholar in Matthew-Phillips Training College. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this program. First of all, express my sincere thanks to the presenter, the resource person, Swami Gurunanyana Tagaspi, in charge, Shantigiri Research Foundation and Shantigiri Institute of Training and Development. Swamiji presented the paper under the title, Cognitive Biases, Fallacies in the Way We Think. So it's a very wonderful section. So I may like to express on sincere thanks to Swamiji for giving an excellent coverage ideas and giving great information about the topic cognitive biases. Also, I express my sincere thanks to our principal, Dr. K. Benedict sir, Dr. Jojo sir, and all teachers for the facility to assemble here. And I also specially thanks to all participants in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Malini. We again come together with more enthusiasm since we wind up this session joyfully. Now let us rise for the national anthem.
Thank you, ma'am.
Swamiji, kindly write your phone number in the chat box, please.
So I have given that, sir.